Game mats, yes. We got a brand new Ascension Skydragon game mat. I don't actually have one to show you in my hands right now.
Hello guys, once again to the coverage of YCS Madrid. It's crunch time, it's the last round in the Swiss, and naturally we picked a match that is a win and in. So if you win, you're going to make it to the top 32. If you lose, you're out of the competition. We don't want to talk around that a lot because let's just get right to it. We got Tom Paine, a former UK national champion who's also done well at the YCS, going up against Stefano Barbieri, a player who's come close a couple of times. Either missed the top cut by just one win, or he was in the tops but got eliminated on the way to the top 8.
Well, so we've got some very good players here. We're going to see Shadoll versus Burning Abyss. I don't believe we've seen that matchup this weekend.
Nope.
On the stream. Interesting thing about Tom Paine. Yesterday I was raving on about... Last round I was raving on about how good Sinister Shadow Games is. Tom Paine isn't actually playing Sinister Shadow Games in his main deck. He has 3 copies in his side deck. But other interesting things in here. We've got three Thunder Dragons, which go quite nice with as additional discard fodder for Super Polymerization and Soul Charge. But he's also playing 3 copies of regular Polymerization.
The first thing I saw when I saw the deck list, I thought, is it a deck list error? Maybe he means to run Super Polymerization instead, and he just was too lazy to spell out the Super. But he's playing both cards, and we had the discussion just also in the last round. Do you actually want to play Super Polymerization in the main deck? And he answers that, yes, I do. And I also want to have 3 more copies of a normal Polymerization.
He's got 9 Polymerizations in his deck. 3 Shadoll Fusion, 3 Polymerization, 3 Super Polymerization.
So what do you do if you play against somebody who's never going to special summon a monster?
Don't worry, I've got plenty of Fusion. I'm always going to be able to play my Fusion. But the interesting thing there is, if your Shadoll Fusion gets shut down by Vanity's Emptiness or something, and then you can turn off the Vanity's Emptiness, you can play a regular Polymerization in the same turn, because Shadoll Fusion only has a once per turn clause on it.
All right. So on the other side, we got Stefano Barbieri. You already mentioned it's Burning Abyss. He's got the regular monster lineup, I would say.
Yeah, he's playing Rank Up Magic and Supply Squad. He is playing Supply Squad in his build, which is a card that many players have questioned if it's best for Burning Abyss, because when you activate it, it denies you the ability to use the special summon effect on each of your Burning Abyss monsters. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. Both these players got a chance of making the top 32.
Supply Squad decks usually want to go into the grind game.
Yeah, the longer the game goes on, the more cards you're going to get out of it.
Yes. So, but at the same time, Shadolls don't mind that too much. I guess if you have that many options to special summon.
Yeah, as long as he still has the materials to play, he can play the game as long as he wants. If he goes extreme late, where he runs out of cards, runs out of things to fuse with, that's when there's serious problems for Tom Paine.
Right.
But he's playing 17 monsters, so that's 8 fusions if he didn't play any of his monsters. And that's not counting how many times Falco can bring cards back for additional materials.
So this match, once again, is going to get exciting. After the match, we can talk about the players leading the pack at the moment, give you some more information of who we're going to see again at the top 32 knockout stage that's following right after that round. But for the time being, it's going to be Tom Paine on the one side of the table, Stefano Barbieri. I think the players are ready, and we're about to get going.
I believe so. Hold on a sec, we've got a...
Or we have some...
Perhaps a small technical
all right.
issue.
It appears like the app is down at the moment. The system that allows you guys to see the cards that the players have in their hands and on the field. So we can just talk about the standings at the tournament a little bit prior to the match. So leading the pack currently are Umut Serin. We said he's German. I'm actually not 100% sure if he is. I mean, he's Turkish, I think, because he always has passport problems when he tries to go to the UK and other places.
Right, okay.
But he's living in Germany, so people just assume, and I just assume he's German. Maybe that's why he gave me a weird look at the breakfast.
Well, we gave him a German flag, so he probably saw that and went...
Yeah, maybe. I don't think he's got a problem with that. Then we got Armando Mandile on the second place, a player that, quite frankly, I haven't heard of before.
No, I can't say I've heard of him, but he's sitting second place after round 8, so we can only assume that he's actually doing extremely well.
Out of the players that we have featured over the course of this weekend, we got Joshua Schmidt in 8th place at the moment. We saw him just in the last round where he dismantled Federico Supini, courtesy of some lead sideboard tech.
Very, very decisive victory.
Right. Then Paolo Paciana, you might remember, is a player with 54 cards in his main deck. He couldn't decide whether to play Shadolls or Burning Abyss, so he just put them all together in one deck, coming up with a 54 card pile, I want to say. And somehow it's working out great for him. He only dropped one match all weekend, and so definitely something to look out for. We featured him thinking like this might be the last opportunity we get with this deck, because he was like 3-1, and if he's going down to 4-2,
yeah,
you
then
never
maybe
know if you want to feature him. Suddenly he's among the very top of the standings. Other players to look out for are Eugen Heid in 12th place, the reigning European champion, and then we got Alpay Engin on 17th place. And Federico Supini didn't take too much of a hit when he lost to Joshua Schmidt in the round before. He's currently sitting on 18 points in 20th place. So he can still make it, just like the two players that we have at the feature match table right now. And I believe that the technical difficulties have been resolved.
Yep, and the hands are loading in.
Exactly, the hands are loading in. We're going to cut to the players in just a second. We can already see them shifting in their chairs. You're going to see that in just a second when we're going to be live with round 9, the last round of Swiss at YCS Madrid. So let's head over there where the game is about to go underway. It appears that, yeah, there we go. Stefano has kicked things off with 4 face-down back row cards. You will know what they are.
Phoenix Wing, Wind Blast, Solemn Warning, Divine Wrath, and Compulsory Evacuation. So a lot of powerful traps, and he has a Burning Abyss, Graph, the Malebranche of the Burning Abyss in his hand, which will allow him to special summon a monster from his deck. Tom, on the other hand, had 2 Upstart Goblins.
Which immediately got sent to the graveyard, basically.
Yep, so he wants to get through that deck as quickly as possible. Shadoll Fusion, Super Polymerization, Shadoll Hedgehog, Shadoll Falco. Playing almost 10 fusion cards in his hand means, I don't actually have the exact percentage, but he's going to see a fusion card in his opening hand very, very frequently. In fact, it's more surprising if he doesn't have a fusion. Okay, so is that a Solemn Warning being used against Shadoll Fusion?
I believe so, because Stefano is still on 8,000 life points despite the 2 Upstart Goblins. So basically there was a free warning for him.
Yes, that's one of the... I think he's just being asked to replace the sleeve real quick. He might have damaged it as he was flipping it over.
Right, well, not a big deal. Judges are having an eye on that and make sure that we are having a fair tournament environment.
Well, it's something for you guys at home as well to be careful when you're flipping your cards up, because some people like peel the corners in between rounds, and then you get called up on a deck check later, and it's like, oh yeah, well my trap cards are, you know, bent on the corners, and it's probably because you're flicking them.
Also, Tom Paine is currently sitting on 33rd place in the standings, and Stefano on 40th. So both of these, like we said before, they're going to be in.
Have to win.
Yeah, they have to win to be in. But
even a draw won't get them in, I don't believe.
Yes, no, that won't be enough. So they have to. There's nothing like, oh, let's just take a slow approach. No, they have to go all in, or they are out.
Okay, so we're going to see Tour Guide actually resolving and getting Sir of the Malebranche of the Burning Abyss. Now this is a card you probably saw a whole lot of a long time ago, back when Generation Force had just introduced Exceed monsters into the game. And then it disappeared for a long while, and now we're back in full force with Burning Abyss. And here we are, the legend himself, Dante.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean,
oh, look at that. The top 3 cards he sends, a Scram and a Graph. So he can get 2 free effects off of this.
That is huge.
This is just extra cards for him, and he's still sitting on Phoenix Wing, Wing Blast, a Divine Wrath, Compulsory Evacuation device. He's very ready to take out any of Tom's fusion monsters without even triggering them.
Right. Tom, on the other hand, gets to have a few free special summons here. So we shouldn't discard him too early. Count him out too early.
Tom, now that the Dante has resolved, he's sitting with an extra deck monster on the table, allowing for free fusions.
Yes. So maybe he was even like, yeah, bring your extra deck monster. I really don't mind because it's going to play in my favor. But if you see the cards that were sent to the graveyard, is that where you just change your opinion about that particular play?
If I'm Tom, and he doesn't have a Shadoll Fusion at the moment, but he has got a Shadoll Hedgehog, which will find him the Shadoll Fusion, he's going to get 3 cards with a free fusion as well. And there's actually, Stefano has no way of countering this. So even with the Dante, Dante's chancing the ability to gain extra effects when he uses his send cards from the deck to the graveyard.
Right.
Tom's guaranteed to get these as long as he resolves his Shadoll fusion.
Like you said it that Stefano doesn't have a way to stop it. Once again, let's check out his field.
He can deal with the fusion monster after it's summoned. But
After it's summoned, yeah.
The 2 monsters that will activate from the Shadoll fusion will happen 100%.
Right.
I think he's going for Downward Magician? Yeah.
Yes.
No, we haven't seen this one summoned in a feature match zone, so I'll pull this up for you. But you can XC summon it by placing it on a rank 2 or 3, I believe. It might be anything below rank... There we go. You guys can check that guy out. But it's a very good thing a way to turn Dante into a powerful monster. I will get the text up for you
not
guys
to
in a
say
second.
that Dante isn't a powerful monster.
No, Dante's incredible.
Yeah, rank 3 or lower, exceed monster.
And it gains attack for each material it has to it, and it has piercing. But if you attack with it, or it gets attacked, you detach one X material.
So it's bound to get weaker, but it's such a strong card when it first comes out, you won't really mind that. So as you mentioned before, Tom is going for the Shadoll Fusion, obviously.
Yeah, he's getting the free Shadoll Fusion, and he sent Squamata to the graveyard to allow him to send an additional card whilst getting his construct. 1 card construct. Stefano is prepared for this. Tom Paine's hand, in case you're interested. 2 Super Polymerization, 2 Shadoll Falco, Mystical Space Typhoon. So he even has a follow-up if his monster gets countered.
Right. Super Polymerization, a card we talk about all weekend. And, well, it has been a big deal.
Downward Magician is a dark monster, I believe, right?
Downward Magician, this is... Yes, it is.
So the Super Polymerization can be used here to... in response to either of these traps, Phoenix Wing, Wind Blast, and Compulsory, and put down another fusion monster.
Right. Although Stefano does have another answer.
Yeah, he can answer the second one as well, but his Dante will trigger.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of Shadoll effects. I think that's a Shadoll Hedgehog and a Shadoll Beast. You see this graveyard just slowly making a snake out, where Tom's making sure that he's activating everything and he knows all of his options.
Yeah, you mentioned this a few times. It's hard to keep track of what's going on in this deck.
The last time I had trouble with this is Dragon Ruler format, when you had 4 dragons that are all once per turn, or spell books where you had like 8 cards that you can only activate 1 of each turn.
Yes.
And it's like, Secrets, play 20 cards. Did I play Secrets this turn? Okay, so you can see a Synchro Summon for Leo.
Well, that is usually a really good card and hard to remove from the table. But
since the Shadoll Fusion now becomes free and Construct answers Leo, it's an interesting... It's not something you summon in that much. Okay, Soul Charge.
Yeah, I forgot about that one card, yeah. So that's going to be a big Soul Charge.
Would have been nice to have that Solemn Warning for the situation, but at the same time, then Tom would have gotten an earlier fusion. So let's see how Tom deals with this. He knows that Stefano only has so many answers in his spell and trap zone.
Right. So his game plan at this point is to put more threats on the field that Stefano can handle, which is a very generic game plan.
Yeah, it's a 4-monster Soul Charge here, and one of them being Lila. So he's going to try and force through all of his opponent's spells and traps whilst holding on to as many cards as possible.
He will most likely not mind going down to just a few cards in his hand when his opponent is also going down to just a few cards, because generally speaking he seems to have the better boss monsters that can dominate the board.
Yeah, Shadoll Construct is absolute answer to, well, it's much bigger than Dante can get.
Yeah.
Even Winder is bigger than, will prevent the Burning Abyss monsters being special, allowing you to make those rank 3 plays.
Right.
Sorry, I'm tripping over my tongue here. Trying to get my words out.
So Lila targeting one of the back row cards, and it is card in the middle. I think that was the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Not 100% sure.
I think it's a Divine Wrath.
Oh,
actually.
the Divine Wrath. That would.
Does he chain it? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question. That's quite a good hit, to be honest, because the other 2 cards, Stefano would have liked to chain, and he really wouldn't have minded like losing them to the Lila effect. So this was basically the best hit for Tom, wasn't it?
Yeah, because even if Phoenix Wing Wind Blast put one of those monsters on top of his deck, 4 of those just came out of the graveyard for 1 soul charge.
Yeah.
So you'd then be investing 2 of your cards, although he does have Graph in his hand to discard, so pay for that cost. Like, Tom would still have not really lost too much in terms of the war of attrition.
Right.
But we're going to see Abyss Dweller, which is a very, very good counter card to Burning Abyss monsters.
Yes. Probably not going to stay on the field for long because of that very reason.
It's it is a quick effect though, so even if Tom does answer it with, if he had the Divine Wrath, he'd be in a lot better position.
Right.
Even if Stefano then activates and discards a Burning Abyss, you're going to see Tom chain that a bit to make sure that Stefano doesn't get the Dante that attaches a material to Downward Magician. He's not going to get the discard card, so this is actually a terrible position. But Soul Charge is in place, so there can be no attacks this turn. So Stefano gets 1 whole turn to deal with this before everything starts falling to bits.
We got to give credit to Tom, though. He has amassed 12 votes from our Twitch chat, so the vast majority is, or the people that participated in our poll, thinks that Tom is going to go there and win that match.
He's sitting in a very, very strong position, even from the very get-go when he paid half of his life points into a Soul Charge. He was just not worried at all.
So when you're in Stefano's position right here, you definitely don't want to like go on tilt. Once again, the topic that we had earlier, when you're just like, why couldn't you hit any of the other 2 cards that I had in my back row with that Lila?
At least that would give him some chance, but Tom's aware that all of the very powerful discard traps that the Burning Abyss monster deck can play only answers 1 card at a time, and a Soul Charge that's putting 4 monsters you have to deal with in play for 1 card is now creating a situation where these discard traps are almost too slow to handle what's going on here.
That is like a first. So there's the tour guide getting cast, and the Abyss Dweller is gonna respond to make sure that there won't be any shenanigans from the Burning Abyss monsters.
Oh, he activates it, and he's got the super polymerization, so he can turn both the tour guide and the Downward Magician into a Winder, if that's what he's... No, he's going for Shadoll Beast and the Downward Magician.
And he... Yeah.
Oh, there's a Sir and a Dante under there as well, which won't activate because of the excellent Abyss Dweller. And Tour Guide now going to resolve getting the 1 special summon that Stefano is allowed to make per turn.
And it appears like this is not going to be enough in that particular scenario.
I mean, yeah, he could respond with one of his spell or trap cards to continue his turn, which he could definitely do, but he still then has to find a way to answer all of these. That's the Leo, the Winder. Even if he gets rid of the Abyss Dweller, the Winder and Leo combined have 5,300 attack points.
And Leo is bound to make an attack before it can be targeted. So
yeah, well, yeah, it's...
Tom can almost be 100% sure that it's going to be some damage coming in. So even though he's behind in life points at the moment, but that was because of a big soul charge, he should be, yeah, as you can see, he's just leaning back.
He's just taking
a sip, he's like, yep.
If you get out of this, fine. I'll figure out something else. But at the moment, I'm not going to even worry about a plan B. He has got a Thunder Dragon he's drawn in his hand. With his millions of cards that he has available to him at the moment, he can just get a few more. And that will support the other super polymerization.
We haven't seen Thunder Dragon in a while, have we?
No, we used to see this in Turbo Exodia decks. I can't actually show you Thunder Dragon, but you discard it from your hand. It's a level 5 light monster, 1600 attack. I think it's 1600 defense as well.
1600, 1500.
1600, 1500. You discard it from your hand and you add up to 2 Thunder Dragons from your hand to your deck.
And the up 2 is really there just to give you something to think about, because it's always going to be 2, isn't it?
Well, there's actually times where you want to add 1, then discard it to add another 1 so you can make a Soul Charge play for Constellar Pleiades. And it's a really weird thing, because if you activate it and add 2 to your hand, you gain a card. If you do it 1 at a time, you just thin through your deck. You don't actually gain a card.
But it can be better in particular scenarios.
Yeah, so it's making your Soul Charge live or making a super polymerization cost manageable. There is actually a decision behind it. Because you always think of Thunder Dragon as adding 2 cards from your deck to your hand, but depending on how you use it, you don't actually gain a card from it.
So Stefano forced into a position he doesn't want to be in. He activated or he resolved the tour guide, he's got a special summon out of the deal. But the problem is, because of Winder that is on the field, he cannot go for a rank 3 Exceed summon, and now he has to watch Tom.
Tom just add more to his arsenal.
Yes, I was about to say bringing the pain, but
the pain train.
yeah, all the puns.
He should get a T-shirt that says that.
Yeah, it's like he can't make it through the coverage without having one of these thingies mentioned. So
if you watch this afterwards, Tom, we're sorry.
yeah,
It's too difficult. We tried our best.
it's also I kind of blame James. He was like, I never feature him without doing that.
But James just knows it's a lost cause to not do that.
So that is an Arcane Magician, yes. And the counters are leaving the card right away again.
Yeah, we'll trade a Leo because the Leo very important here.
So a breakthrough skill is negating the effect. That seems all good.
The breakthrough skill could be pretty clutch here because in his own turn, if Tom tries to use the Abyss Dweller, he can chain the breakthrough from his graveyard to stop the Abyss Dweller turning off all of his effects. So he might be able to create a window for himself.
Yes, so there's a window of opportunity.
Yeah, he might be able to string together a sequence of plays. That breakthrough skill, very important here. And the rules question here is what happens to the spell counters if Arcanite Magician is negated?
Isn't it a cost to remove them?
A monster can't have spell counters unless it has an effect that gives it spell gives it spell counters. So if Breakthrough is used, the Arcanite Magician just loses its counters. But I think that's the question that they're asking.
Right. So breakthrough skill, once again, one of the most versatile cards. We've seen that popping up a lot
in threes
this weekend in threes. When it first came out, it wasn't played in threes. It was like more of a one-off for
a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, it's a pretty good card." You know, they were happy to see it in Cosmo Blazer, but not everybody was playing it.
Yeah, nobody was like 100% sold on the card to play 3-offs.
Yeah, well, then the artifacts happened, and the ability to be able to turn off Morale Tack, 2 Morale Tacks with 1 breakthrough skill became very, very relevant. And in this format as well, where you've got a Winder and Statellar Knights that you want to take care of, it's become very, very important.
Right. But the game continues. The question was answered in the same way that you answered it. Now we continue with yet another special summon or fusion summon.
More fusion.
But I'm really waiting for the polymerization. I really want to see the original polymerization.
I want to see that because I actually want to see Stefano's face.
That was one of the
twist in a way of going, what?
That was one of the questions that we asked yesterday. So if you play a regular polymerization, but you play it as a super rare card, is it a super polymerization?
Oh, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound?
Right, so Tom sitting in a very commanding position, just added another Shadoll construct to his field. There's a compulsory evacuation device.
Oh, his Stefano's back row just being completely harried.
The problem is the MST is actually good in that scenario. Usually, it takes out it's supposed to take out the Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. Wouldn't do much because it just gets chained. However, Leo can no longer be removed from the field if that happens.
Yeah. So at best, Tom can put away the construct or the Abyss Dweller.
Stefano can put away.
Yeah, Stefano, sorry. He can put away either of the other 2 cards, but
Leo is going to hang around for a little longer.
And if he discards the graph that he has in hand, all that's going to happen is we're going to see Abyss Dweller chained.
Yes.
And so Sir and the graph will not activate, and there'll be... Stefano will start his turn with no cards to answer a Leo.
A Leo, yes. A card that often causes you to invest more than just 1 card to get it off the field. So the question for me is...
Yeah, he's picking up his cards.
Yeah.
No, he's not.
No, he's not just yet. But would it have been better in the last turn of Tom, when he played the big soul charge, for Stefano to play in main phase 2 one of his face down cards to get rid of the Leo?
Was that during main phase 2 that Tom did that? I thought it was main phase 1 that he soul charged and went straight to end phase, never giving the opportunity to...
Oh.
I think that's how he played the turn because... yeah, because he skips his battle phase, he
doesn't
go to main phase 2. So there was never an opportunity to target the Leo.
I see. So in that case, flawless play from Tom, I guess.
Yeah, he knows exactly how this matchup works, and this is why he's committed so heavily to the field with that soul charge. Like, he's not even taken a dent to his life points, and Stefano is struggling to just keep in this game. And he started off so strong. Like, for a Burning Abyss deck, that's the kind of hand that you want. Just lots of discard traps, a discard outlet.
Yeah, in case you want to get more familiar with these players, you can find both articles about Tom Paine and Stefano Barbieri in our written coverage that also accompanies today's event. So you can just head over there and read a few more feature matches if you want. You can go into in-depth deck breakdowns where you see what they've been playing at the events before and how everything played out in a written feature match.
Yeah. There's a Vanity's Emptiness has come down for Tom Paine as well.
Oh.
This is just utterly crushing this game.
So this is a very big lockdown. Sometimes I feel like you should just flip the Vanity's Emptiness and ask your opponent to access his sideboard, basically. But then again, there is still an opening with an MST and one more card in hand. But
It's also information. If he can get his opponent to concede without actually showing him the Vanity's Emptiness.
that's another point, yes.
But if you're Stefano, you have to assume at this stage of the tournament, with Vanity's Emptiness being so important against all of these top-level decks, that his opponent is playing it. But the thing you can't be sure of is how many number you're playing or if you saw it.
So the Emptiness is not only the only card, the only trap in Tom's deck. It's also being played in threes. So
They're just discussing the match there.
interestingly enough, it seemed like Tom was flashing the Vanity's Emptiness.
Yeah,
so Stefano did see the card, even though he didn't have a reason to show it. Like, Tom didn't have a reason to show the card.
he could have hit that information.
Yes.
Because Stefano, most likely, is when he's going through his mental list of how a Shadoll deck should look, he's probably assuming 3 Sinister Shadow games, maybe 1 Shadoll core, and a whole bunch of other stuff that you just generally see. But we're only seeing 3 traps in Tom's, because he hasn't got room when he's playing all of those fusion cards and 3 upstart goblins.
Yeah, that's the thing, because he's playing only 40 cards, but 3 of these cards are upstart goblins, so basically he's only playing 37 cards.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, because you sometimes have this argument, you see, where players complain that they don't have space in their deck, and you see the 3 upstarts. And the question is, well, you could take the upstarts out to give you room, but then you get the counter argument, I want to get to these certain key cards faster. So I can't really afford to play more than the 37 cards that Upstart Goblin will have you using. But then Upstart Goblin's not really 37 cards in your deck if you're going second and you desperately need the Max C. It's still a card that's not Max C.
Right. So once again, if you've just tuned in, this is the last round of Swiss. At this point in time, if the match would be over right now, Tom Paine, who just won the first game, would be in the top 32. So he would go on and play for the title of a YCS champion, whereas his opponent, Stefano Barbieri from Italy, would be out of the competition. So he's put up a great effort. He's among the very top of the field. He's currently sitting in 14th place, but if he loses that match, he's going to be out of the tournament.
To make it this far, and then losing the final round, which eventually prevents you getting into the top cut, is the best you could have done without making the top cut. So you can walk away maybe a little bit disappointed, but it puts you way ahead of most of the other competitors, which have either dropped or been eliminated.
Yes.
Like early on. If you just keep at it, and if you're consistently getting to that point, you'll eventually get through into the top cut.
Yes.
And then it's all downhill. Well, not downhill, it's all uphill from there.
Yeah, I've seen players who just like obsess over the fact that they can't make it to the knockout portion. They are like, I'm always 1 win short, and it kind of eats them up. They really obsess over that fact, and they don't grow as a player. They don't become better because of that, because they just have this mindset, I'm not going to make it to the tops. Yeah. And if you're going into tournament with that mindset, you're actually not going to make tops.
Take a positive attitude. You did extremely well. You made it 1 win short of the knockouts, you know. Go away from that and go, okay, so what can I do next time?
Also, one thing we see, when we look at the top of the standings, we don't have that many Spanish names picking up, so you would expect the Spanish to be, well, also having a strong presence in the top of the field, because there are most likely more Spanish in the building than any other nation. Yep. However, we got all these veterans of the game that travel to YCS after YCS, also because they get a cool playmat for that, which is another story in
the
itself.
ordeal of the traveller.
Yes.
Yes. We're only 2 more events after this one that you'd have to attend if you've been to all of the YCSs this year to get an exclusive playmat to represent your achievement of attending every European YCS of 2014. Don't worry, guys, we're not counting YCS Sydney for that. We wouldn't do that to you. It'd be a little bit unfair going, but you didn't go to Sydney, so that's your bad.
Right. So once again, we're at the table, and the cards are coming in just a second. It's Tom's cards are first. It looks pretty strong with a Shadoll Fusion in his opening hand, a card he always wants to see.
Another card that we probably... Yep. Actually interesting, in case you're wondering, from Tom Paine's side deck, he's playing 3 Sinister Shadow Games, 2 Razor the Storm Monarchs, 1 Mind Control, 3 Malevolent Catastrophe, 3 Riker the Lightsworn Hunter, 3 Max C. I wonder if we're going to see these Malevolent Catastrophes coming in against the large back rows of Stefano, and he's not playing Stellar Knight, so he's not playing Stellar Nova Alpha to counter this Malevolent Catastrophe, so he can blow the game entirely open just from resolving one of these.
On the other side, we got Stefano, who goes first with a tour guide. There seems to be he seems to be running through the options he has. His side deck lists a lot of Italian cards. Well, one Italian card that I can make out is Max C. That's pretty easy. We got 2 copies of Chain Disappearance through Stygian Dirge. That is
not helpful when the fusion spell has no prejudice on what monsters are being fused, what their levels are. It's just as long as it's attributes and Shadoll, it lines up. It's interesting.
Seems like Necro Valley.
Is that Necro Valley?
It says Necro Valle, but I'm not sure if the Italian translation is just Necro Valley.
It's a gravekeeper that parks your car. It's a valet. Oh, that'd be a brilliant card.
Yeah, that would be a brilliant card.
We should start a straw poll for that and see if
all right.
if gravekeeper cards would like that. Just a guy in a robe who parks your card.
Would be really nice. I mean, that would be a job I would totally be willing to do.
Really?
Speaking of jobs I'm willing to do, writing a book is among the top of my list. But would you have thought that if you're in the 15th century writing a book and it's becoming one of the all-time classics? Some people say the Divine Comedy by Dante is like the best literature that Italy has ever produced, and you end up on a Yu-Gi-Oh card for that. That's quite an interesting reward.
Oh yeah, if he was here this day, he'd be like, "That's my guy.
Yeah,
that's me."
It's like, that's why I did it. That's like why I wrote this whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, so from the early setup that we saw from Stefano taking advantage of his first turn, he starts with a Dante, a Sir in defense mode, which will be able to retrieve either the Graph or the Dante should it go down, compulsory evacuation device to answer a Shadoll Fusion, and a wiretap against Tom Paine.
Yep, there are the cards once again.
Tom Paine starting off incredibly strong, actually. Shadoll Fusion, Shadoll Squamata, 2 copies of Anti's Emptiness, Sinister Shadow Games, and a Super Polymerization. And so he's getting a free fusion out of this as well.
Not that surprising.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks to Dante in this matchup. Is as epic as he is, he does give your opponent a free fusion. And that's a Shadoll Beast being sent to the graveyard, which will give Tom another card. And yeah, Construct then sends Shadoll Falco to the graveyard, which will set Tom up for a future turn. Let's see, where do we go from here? Yep, the Falco goes face down.
So Stefano is considering his response to that. And he does have a response, the compulsory evacuation device that you mentioned earlier. But with a super polymerization still in Tom's hand, he's far from being out of options, isn't he?
See, that's a card that comes straight to the front of his hand. The super polymerization, it seems like the question this weekend has been answered. How many copies do you play? And 3 seems to have been the most successful number in the features we've seen. Well, that's not really representative of the entire field. The super polymerization is definitely the power card. Is probably the second best card in the deck when you don't count Shadoll Fusion.
So Dante makes a surprise disappearance. And we just, basically Tom just lost a card from his hand, 2 cards from his hand if you count the super polymerization itself. Whereas his opponent lost 1 card to replace the construct. That seems like an okay trade for him.
When Dante goes to the graveyard, he allows Stefano to add a Burning Abyss monster back to his hand. And Tom sending a Shadoll Hedgehog to his graveyard, which will allow him to add, I believe that's Shadoll Dragon? Yes, I think that's Shadoll Dragon to his hand.
And still, once again, we got this situation where Tom can go big, assemble a field, put down a Vanity's Emptiness, and then force his opponent into a position where he needs to attempt and special summon something. And he just can just make sure that he's never going to come back in this match.
Yeah, he's creating the wall with Sir and Dante to block stream of attacks, because Sir gets destroyed, brings back Dante.
Right.
Seer, sorry, not Sir. Seer then, when after Dante's destroyed, brings back the Seer, which can get back the Dante, so you keep this loop. So, in case you're wondering what would happen if Vanity's Emptiness was flipped, Stefano actually has a handful of monsters. One of them is Chaos the Shadow Monarch, which will be able to answer any of the Shadolls or even a Vanity's Emptiness if he needs to, but Tom has 2 copies of Vanity's Emptiness. But there's a wiretap down for Stefano, so Stefano can force through a play.
Right. Interestingly enough, we've just had a confirmation on the stream that Necro Valley is actually Necro Valley. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah,
we were right.
It's unfortunately not the Gravekeeper that takes your car away.
Card D. Why not?
Right. So how crucial can this wiretap be right here? I mean, it's going to stop the Vanity's Emptiness, and the second copy can't be chained because wiretap is a counter trap card. So Stefano gets to resolve 1 special summon at least, which can be quite big right here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. He's drawn a supply squad. With those 2 Vanity's Emptiness up, the special summoning effects for the Burning Abyss monsters would be irrelevant. As long as he's got the wiretap, he can't use those. Anyway, here we go.
There's a tour guide, there's the wiretap, and Tom is like, next time I'm going to get you. And he doesn't really mind that the Vanity's Emptiness is going back into his deck, does he?
No, well, no, because as long as he can get to a Vanity's Emptiness, he can, as long as he always activates it, it's going to be activating it at the crucial time to stop the opponent from doing something.
When do you activate the second Vanity's Emptiness? Do you do it right now, before Dante comes out?
Considering he's got a Sinister Shadow Games face down, he could do it right now, but I don't think he's particularly worried because he has a Shadoll Fusion in his hand. If he lets his opponent commit to an extra deck summon, because he knows Dante on its own will not. I don't think there's a rank 3 that he could get that would deal with the construct. And if he'll flip it if his opponent plays something like Rank Up Magic, Astral Force.
Yes.
He'll then go, okay, so no, I'll stop the Rank Up Magic, and then you're left with a Dante which I can answer, and I've got a Shadoll Fusion.
That is very interesting in my opinion, because like it was the right call to flip the first Vanity's Emptiness right away. It's not the right call to flip the second Vanity's Emptiness as soon as possible.
After the monsters hit the field, playing the Vanity's Emptiness is not really going to give Tom anything, and it leaves it in a vulnerable position because there's a lot of cards in Stefano's hand, and if any of them answer the Vanities, he can then just start special summoning Graf and Scram and then make another rank 3 over that. So there could be a sequence of plays that doesn't work out for Tom.
Also, how do you feel that your opponent is suddenly left without a back row when you're sitting in Tom's position?
Against a non-Burning Abyss deck, then you're feeling pretty confident. But when the Burning Abyss has the extra special summon, your opponent can string together a play out of nowhere. Again, to do that, they give up the ability to gain all of the effects from when they're sent to the graveyard. But then, if it's an empty back row against Burning Abyss, they're not playing Phoenix Wing Wind Blast on you, or Rageki Break, or Karma Cut, or any of the other very, very powerful trap cards.
Right. So Stefano now goes for Dante, I presume?
Supply Squad. Okay, so in doing this, he's denying himself access to those Graf and Scram special summons, but he does give himself a way to start gaining back plenty of cards whenever his monsters are destroyed. Let's wind up Zen Mines in attack mode.
Oh, that's Zen Mines. A card we haven't seen this weekend. A card we would have liked to see in Rick Cherry's match.
Yeah, that would have been a lot better for him than nothing.
Yeah.
I don't feel that's fair to say that this card is literally better than nothing.
Yeah. It's a bold statement.
Yeah, but it could have made all the difference in Tom Paine, not Tom Paine,
Rick
in Rick Cherry's game.
Yes. The funny thing is, there was a very long time when Wind Up Zen Mains was the go-to rank 3 monster. You would just not even think about what to bring out. You would just special summon it and just sit back and see what your opponent does to deal with it.
Yeah, when the answer to the question was, do I get Levier to do my Rescue Rabbit play, or am I making Zen Mains on my first turn? Those were generally what you were doing. Okay, so Construct's taken out by Wind Up Zen Mains effect. And Sinister Shadow Games is flipped in the end phase of Stefano. For you guys who haven't seen Supply Squad this weekend, it was in the new starter deck that came out, Space Time Showdown. Very simple effect. When a monster you control, once per turn, when a monster you control is destroyed, draw a card. Okay, so we can see Shadow Beast sent to the graveyard, which flips up the Shadoll Falco. And then Tom's going to be able to claim both the Falco effect and the Shadoll Beast.
So what does Stefano need to turn this around in this situation?
Let's take a look at his extra deck. It's all in Italian. That's one problem. But if you consider the discard traps he's got a lot of cards he can make the most out of. So he needs to hold on against this onslaught of Shadoll cards.
There's a Maxi now in Tom's hand,
which then makes cards like Tour Guide much more risky. And Supply Squad getting sniped by the Shadoll Dragon, which is something that happens a lot, which makes me question if Supply Squad is really a great card for the Burning Abyss deck, because when you play it, it doesn't do anything for you. Then you have to get a monster destroyed for it to happen. You lock yourself out of your special summon effects, and then after it is destroyed, it replaces itself. And then you got to get another monster destroyed before you're making any kind of profit out of it. And is it worth having this setup? Like on your first turn, if you play it, if you haven't got a way of triggering it, it's just basically starting with a 4-card hand. It's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to running it, but I'm not particularly sold on it in this deck.
Yeah, but it also seems like Tom has such an easy time putting himself into a commanding position.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. We're going to see it. It's a polymerization. It is not a super rare, I'm afraid. So it's technically not a super polymerization. But it's going to do the trick just as fine.
It's like you can play Shadoll Fusion and polymerization and make 2 constructs in a single turn.
We want to see that.
Hold on, if we could get a close-up on Stefano's face, if that's what happens here, that would be excellent.
Yeah.
Because I would be, if you just see my face, like, what?
You just shake your opponent's hand when that happens, right? You're just like, okay, you're playing polymerization. You are the boss. I give it to you.
You're like, wow, you know, I give you credit. That's brave.
All right, so the Shadoll Fusion in the graveyard now. He gets to add another Shadoll monster to his hand. And now he's got everything he needs.
Upstart Goblin.
First Upstart Goblin. Yeah.
He's got a Shadoll Falco face up and a Squamata and a Beast, so he's got a lot of synchro options open to him.
Yes. He needs to free up some space first.
Possibly looking for a game shot here if he can get through the Zen Mines.
It's interesting that he goes for the Upstart Goblin, giving him his opponent another 1,000 life points, but he looks like he's confident that he can pull through this.
He's also got a super polymerization for in the battle phase, so you get HTC Behemoth. That's a card HTS Psyhemoth, sorry, is a card we've not seen played this weekend, but it's very similar to DD Warrior Lady. When it battles, it can banish a monster, so you can take out the Zen Mines even without having to beat up on it. Although Shadoll Constructs will trigger its effect, take the material off it, and then battle damage will take it down. So he's got a couple of options, but you can use it to answer the Dante. Let's see how Tom decides to play this out.
Yeah, he's far from being done. His feel, isn't he? Oh, no, now he's ready to attack? Yes, he is.
Okay, he's not going to play the regular polymerization.
Not going to do us the favor. And the Psyhemoth is doing what it's supposed to do, taking out the Dante in very elegant fashion.
Yeah. Construct forcing it to detach with its effect, and then battle damage will take it down, denying Wind Up Zen Mines its effect in the end phase. And we're going to see 2 direct shots.
So, what does Tom have face down at the moment?
Sinister Shadow Games, Vanity's Emptiness, No, he has
just one card.
Vanity Semptinus face down.
So once again, we are in that situation that we mentioned. Assemble your field. Vanity Semptinus face down. That's Super Polymerization. No, he hits right there for game. What does he have that can deal them? Yeah.
2 Super Polymerizations, 2 Winder.
And Stefano is confirming the maths of Tom, and he has to give it to him. Yes, that is indeed enough. He discards the Polymerization.
So his opponent gets to see it, but it's like, Tom, you let me down. Why didn't you play the Polymerization? Take us back 10 years.
Yeah, so he explains it just one more time. The Super Polymerization, of course, is a quick play spell card, so you can activate it in the battle phase to get another attack out of seemingly nowhere, basically, and just go in there once again, and yes, this is what happens. There's the Vanity Semptinus just flips it, and he's like, yeah, I had it once again.
Tom dominating that matchup.
Yeah, both games, in fact. So what looked like a very awkward decklist at first, we got to give it to him.
Yeah.
He made the most out of it, and it might be a very new approach to Shadoll.
Yeah, I imagine from this, players are going to be cramming as many Super Polymerizations into their deck as possible.
I'm also pretty certain that Polymerization is going to see a rise in popularity once again.
I sincerely hope so. We didn't see it in that match, but if we get into the final and we see Polymerization, that's my weekend. That's my highlight.
The interesting thing is, though, that when you're running 3 copies of Polymerization, there are cards you have to discard. So you might be able to get off with some other cards that might not always be useful, but in certain situations you just discard them for something.
Yeah, well, he's playing 3 Super Polymerization, so it's more discard fodder if he really can't do anything with it.
So there's always some use he gets out of the Polymerization, and of course he gets commentators excited, which is also
well, you know, he gets some fans right here.
Yeah, quite a few people will be like, I want to be Tom Paine, I want to be on the stream, and I want to be running a card that Yugi played with back in the days and make it popular once again.
Yeah, the next thing that can be excited is if somebody plays Gate Guardian.
Right. So having a look at our top 32, we got quite a few players with 21 points. So no matter what happens, they're going to be locked up for the top 32. Among them, we mentioned before the match, Umut Serin, currently ranked 1, undefeated up to this point.
Going up, lose. He's in.
Going up against Armando Mandile. So after this match, we will maybe have 0 undefeated players if they draw, but that's not very likely. One of them is probably going to win the one, and then we're going to deal with the curse of Anubis once again. If you go undefeated in the Swiss rounds, you might be the first to get knocked out of the knockout portions.
That happens amazingly frequently.
Yeah. Maybe it's overconfidence.
Perhaps.
That after you're like, I just smashed 9 guys, so what's going to happen to me? And then newsflash.
Yeah,
we're just starting from scratch in the knockout portion.
And you're like, well, I made the top 32 briefly.
Briefly. All right. Right behind them is Antonio Ripoll, the only player in the tournament with 22 points. Following him is Jack Igo, Carl Blake, Walter Dunphy, Thomas Cavaliere, one of the players we saw yesterday in our feature matches. If I'm not mistaken, he was also playing Shadoll.
I believe
he was playing Burning Abyss.
Oh, did he? Yeah, he lost to Helio, didn't he?
He lost to Helio in round 3. That is one of the things we mentioned. Even if you are taking a loss in the feature match against maybe a lesser known player, although in that case that's not true because Helio Barbo is a several-time Portuguese national champion, you might be going all the way and locking up yourself for the top 32. You guys have pointed something out yesterday when we were dropping names just like we did now. It would be really nice to know the decks of all these guys. Well, apparently we only have so much information. It certainly appears like we got perfect information while the feature match is underway because of technology and the judges that are giving us a hand. But we don't know all the single decks for these guys. What we know, however, is the metagame breakdown of the whole event. So let's once again have a look at that. Here they are. The most popular deck, Shadoll. Not that surprising. However, we were thinking that Satellite Knights and Burning Abyss were in very, very hot pursuit, and it doesn't really look like that.
Well, if you add them together, they're very close.
Yeah, if they add them together. And then Light Sworn also with 37 decks in competition, a deck not to be counted out. And Spellbook and Mermail, for us, or at least for me, the biggest surprise, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd expect people to move away from Mermail.
Yeah, but it seems, especially in Europe, Mermail has got some diehard fans, and their passion, even though it's water monsters, it really can't be taken out. They're like, no, I'm having a hot fire passion burning for mermaids. They're not going to get any worse anytime soon. Other decks we've seen this weekend, unfortunately not in our feature matches, is Bujin, Madolche, Evil Swarm, Girgia, and Hat. That is the hands, Ice Hand and Fire Hand, the artifacts that we did see in Joshua Schmidt's deck.
Yes, round 8, the Artifact Morale Tax and the Artifact Sanctums being used alongside the Shadoll standard lineup.
Right, and the T in Hat stands for Trap Tricks. That is Trap Tricks Murmeleo that allows you to add a Trap Hole card to your hand. So once again, if you just joined and you haven't been playing Yu-Gi-Oh in a while, Trap Holes are, well, still a thing.
It's amazing that how fast people dropped off from the Trap Tricks after that, because well, you can sort of see when the Windrower can't be destroyed by Bottomless Trap Hole or by regular, well, can't use regular Trap Holes as special summon, but Trap Tricks, Trap Hole, Nightmare. Really, you've got Space-Time Showdown. It's not Space-Time Showdown. Space-Time Trap Hole. And that can answer the Winder, it can answer the Construct, it can answer a whole bunch of these extra deck monsters.
Yes. So there are plenty of options available.
Yeah, but players choosing not to go with the...
interesting choice. So what's happening at the moment is the other matches are about to wrap up. We are sometimes in overtime, but the judges will make sure that we are having all the results in as soon as possible. Then we will have the final standings after the Swiss rounds. Players will have a few minutes of time to confirm their standings. This is something that you should also keep in mind when you're playing at a tournament. There is a chance that the scorekeeper makes a mistake, or for some reason there's a problem with a score result slip, and so you should always make sure when you're getting paired that the number of points next to your name is the correct number of points. So now we have the final standings then. We do the top 32 card, and after that we're continuing with our coverage of the top 32. That's 5 more rounds: top 32, top 16, top 8, top 4, and the finals, of course. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come today. It's not like we're done anytime soon.
The most exciting part of the tournament is about to happen.
Yes. One more thing. Speaking of nations, we said that the Spanish aren't like represented that much because all of the veterans are traveling to these events. We have guys from, well, of course, Germany, Umut Serin, Turkey. Traveled from Germany though. We got some French players, not just Thomas Cavaliere. Also in competition is Leo Guinere, but he was also having one of these bubble matches, as we like to call them, the win and in, or lose and you're out of the tournament. He was in 25th place,